Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email, by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal, or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone, including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
We are here to talk about the dynamic duo, Kialo meets ProCon, mostly focusing on ProCon.org, but definitely we will touch on Kialo as well. As we're talking about ProCon or Kialo meets ProCon.org, today we want to make sure that we understand the key features of ProCon, what it is, and then even how you can pair Kialo with ProCon and facilitate discussions using these tools. I think it's really great when we have these opportunities to learn about tools and resources that we can use in the classroom with our students and resources that you can almost implement immediately. It's great because we can definitely enhance what we're doing in the classrooms. ProCon.org is a non-biased information source. So what it aims to do is to promote critical thinking, some education, and even informed citizenship. What they do is they present the pro and con arguments of debatable issues. So it's presented in a way that's nonpartisan or non-biased, and it's freely accessible. They want to expose their readers to both sides of an issue. So they're seeing both sides of an issue in a side-by-side comparison type of format, which is making it easier for the reader to see the difference in arguments on both sides. And another thing they want to do is they want to create what they call beneficial confusion, which is their readers struggling with the well-presented opposing positions, and they're able to engage in evaluative thinking and then formulate their own views. So thinking about maybe a reader or a student who might have a pre-existing view on an issue and who even may feel confident in their view. By presenting the information in this way, they may even change their view. So the information and being able to see the comparison of points, the pros and cons, is really helping them with that process of acquiring and critically evaluating information that's helping them even in their decision-making process. Another benefit of this is that it makes the readers more confident and more comfortable in being able to discuss or debate their views with others. And it does this because it helps you or the reader to see what the other side might think. So because you're seeing those both sides, you're able to kind of get the perspective from the opposing side. And then it's challenging its readers. It wants them to examine both sides of the issue to reduce the likelihood that they will resort to a critical analyzation of the opposing side, or what they call demonization of the opposing side. So really still being able to appreciate the differences, but not being so judgmental of those who do have opposing views. And so one thing I actually found very interesting about ProCon is that it is owned by Britannica. If you're familiar with Encyclopedia Britannica, like I'm old enough that when I was young, I had a set of encyclopedias that I literally read like books, and I believe I was missing a few letters, which drove me crazy. But they historically are the oldest continuously published work in English. They've been published since 1768. The information that you're receiving and that's presented in this ProCon site is reliable. Encyclopedia is a reliable source and has even been used for citations in other presentations. This is the logo for ProCon.org. To access it, it's ProCon.org. One of the features is that you can find issues. They refer to the topics that you would be using. They refer to them as issues because, again, they're providing these in a debatable context. So they're finding issues that are debatable. There is no account creation required, which is great. So that means that you can jump right in You don't have to sign up via email. You don't have to get your students logged into it. No account, no login required. Once you're there, if you're trying to find issues, you have multiple ways that you can search. So you can do a keyword search. You can browse the issues by subject. Then you can look for the latest headlines for issues. So if you're looking for current events and issues that are debatable or discussions, you can look for headlines. And then you can also search their topics or their issues from A to Z, and they have them all lined out alphabetically. Another feature of ProCon.org is that it has a teacher's corner. We're talking about being in the classroom and needing resources and tools that we can use that are very thorough. Having a place where there are lesson plans developed is an immense help. So in the teacher's corner, ProCon.org, there are lesson plans, and the lesson plans do include the suggested grade levels, the details of the activity, and then some adaptations to increase or decrease the rigor of that particular lesson. So again, easily able to manipulate, to modify and implement in your current lessons, or even implement as they are currently written. It also shows you how to cite resources from ProCon.org. So again, if you're talking with your students about using reliable sources, or even if you're writing, right? So for writing maybe a research paper and how to do those citations, there is some reference information there on how to cite resources. There are also some videos, some brief videos, introductory videos on teaching critical thinking and referring to the content standards for our adult education for Texas. Teaching critical thinking is imperative. It's one of our standards, right? So we're always looking for ways to teach those critical thinking skills. And then there are also a bank of critical thinking quotes. So a wealth of resources, a wealth of information is here at procon.org to, again, start using with your students in the classroom. Let's do a walkthrough so we can actually see what we're talking about and really see those features. This is procon.org. So when you land on the homepage, this is what it will look like. And we'll go straight down the page. You can search by topic. So again, if you're looking for an issue or a specific topic that you're interested in, you can do a search. Or we have the different subjects, right? So we have society, we have multiple issues under education, government, science, technology, elections and presidents, health and medicine, entertainment and sports, and even some international issues, right? So you have a wealth of subjects that you can find issues under. And if you're looking for more issues, you can click the link at the top of the page. And as we mentioned, you can search the issues from A to Z. So here you have them listed alphabetically. Let's go over to the teacher's corner. There are lesson plans that you can use with ProCon. So if you click the lesson plan link, there are a list of created lesson plans with the suggested grade levels, and then you can click to get more information. So I want to just take a look a little deeper into one of the lesson plans. And this lesson plan is talking about distinguishing fact from opinion. So if we dissect this lesson plan, you have the summary of what this is, the suggested grades. So this is suggested for grades 6 through 9. And then you have the steps of the activity, along with links that were used for reference. It shows alignment like the Common Core standards. If you need to make your lesson a little easier, there are some suggested adaptations, or if you'd like to increase the rigor of the lesson, there are some modifications that you can make it harder. And then, of course, some additional related links. You can read a lesson plan and integrate it into what you're currently doing, or if you like it as it's written, using the adaptations or not, you can go with it directly, but it's already created. Creating lesson plans can sometimes be a little stressful, a little headache. And so when they're already created and what you just need to do is really make it fit your particular group of students or your particular classroom, it's a great help. Teaching your students how to properly cite if they're using writing reference material or essays, You have the different citation forms. So you're looking at APA or MLA formatting, and it shows how they would cite those. So they have a little bit of reference to understand how that they would use these citations within their particular writing. And then you have a bank of 96 critical thinking quotes. And so all of these are free. If we click this bank, there are all of these that you can download as images if you'd like to print them out, hang them up in your classroom, or display them in your virtual classrooms. You have all of these quotes that refer to critical thinking. This really helps kind of bring this resource, ProCon.org, bring it to life, right? So it's just more than a reference material for students. It's giving them both sides of an issue. It's really trying to spur that critical thinking skill, really help the teachers engage the students in their essay writing or debate topics, discussions, really helping them to increase those skills. How do we now use ProCon.org? So think about, how do you currently, if you are currently doing this in your classroom, but how do you currently facilitate debates or discussions or even teach critical thinking activities? What are you currently doing? And how can we use ProCon and introduce Kialo to ProCon? Kialo presents another way to facilitate discussions and debates, and it does it by using a visual platform. Just a little review of Kialo. If you weren't at the Kialo Tech and Tell, I highly encourage you to go back and watch it in the PD portal to get more in-depth information, but we'll go over some of the features and information about Kialo briefly right now. So this is the logo for Kialo. It is a free resource to use, kialo.edu. And what it is an interactive discussion platform. So it's designed to help facilitate classroom debates, even assessment, collaboration, and teaching those critical thinking skills. So it aligns right with the objective of ProCon.org in teaching the critical thinking skills. There are two different discussion types. They have a single thesis discussion type, which is where you're presenting a discussion on a yes or no statement. Like, for example, red is the best color would be like a yes or no statement. And then students would debate pros or cons, yes or no's, in agreement or are not with that statement and their supporting information. Multiple thesis discussion is basically like an open-ended question, or even you can use it to facilitate decision-making, okay? Some additional features of Kialo are that it has customizable discussions. So you can really customize the discussions that you create to fit your specific needs in the classroom. For example, you can add hyperlinks to the thesis and add additional background information to really give your students more resources or reference material if needed. And things like voting. So like if there's a pro or con statement that you want students to vote on, you can enable voting abilities or giving feedback to the students, and even hiding or showing usernames. So if you need anonymity when the students are posting their responses or not, you can control that as well. And another thing that you can do is you can really direct the students towards completing specific activities within a discussion by creating what's called discussion tasks. So they're basically just a set number of tasks that a student must complete within that discussion, and you can customize what you want there. Additionally, you can assign different roles. There are 6 different roles that can be assigned to a discussion. And then, of course, you can set the access permissions. So let's let them meet. Let's use ProCon with Kialo. So what I'm going to have you do on this next slide is actually go into using Kialo. So the background is telling you to click the link below to review the pros and cons of bottled water. And then instructions on how you will then add your pro or con statement to the discussion. And an example of what a response would look like by including some supporting detail from your statement. And the link that you're going to review is at the bottom of that background information. and it takes you to the article about should bottled water be banned. Read over the ProCon.org article, should bottled water be banned? And then you can come back to Kialo and then add your statement, pro or con, based on what you've read. And if you lose the background information, if you click this little colorful wheel, it will pop it right back up for you. And then you can get back to the link and all of the background information of what you'll do. And just a side note, when you do go to add your statement, it is going to prompt you to either log in or sign up. So if this is your first time, the quickest way to do that is to sign up with a Gmail or a Microsoft email, or you can create a username or password, either one. So if you're at the discussion, bottled water should be banned, we are seeing our pro and con statements. So at the top of your screen, what you see is the breakdown of the discussion. So the blue box is showing my initial thesis statement, bottled water should be banned. And the green boxes are representing the pro statements that have been posted. And the red boxes are representing the con statements that have been posted. So if we go down, we have our statements. If you click a statement, you can then respond. So again, remember, Kialo is here to help facilitate a visual discussion. So for example, looking at this con statement, banning bottled water may reduce water consumption and increase consumption of less healthy beverage options. If we click that and then click the three dots for the menu, we can see all of the comments and history. So it looks like on this one, Michelle has actually posted a response to this con statement. I don't think banning it would have the outcomes I hope for. Yes. Great. So you're seeing that discussion come through. I also posted a response to this statement saying, well, then should all plastic bottled beverages be banned? So then you don't have the option of going to the less healthy beverages if they're not in plastic bottles either. It's all on level playing field. But you get the idea, is that now you're able to help the students really kind of facilitate that discussion. And it gives them that moment to really think back, because not only is it just opinion, but they're supporting what they're saying through factual information that has been presented from ProCon.org. Yes, it really helps the students to think. And so some of the other additional tools on the screen are hearts. So if there's a particular point that you want to thank that member or heart that comment, you can do that. And then you can also vote. So in this particular discussion, I did enable voting. So let me go back, and to go back to where we were, just click the up arrow and it takes us back to our full discussion. If there was a pro or con statement that you really felt was really strong, you could vote on it. And if I'm a teacher facilitating this discussion, I'm going to ask my students, my participants, vote on the pro or con statement that you find the strongest or how strong it is. So maybe this one is really strong, in my opinion, and maybe another one is a little less strong. So you, again, are helping the students create that visual and moving those strong points as they've been voted to the top to really help them create those claims that are supported with documentation. So depending upon what academic objective you're teaching, is it quoting a reliable source or using supporting documentation? But depending upon that, you can customize the features of this discussion to make sure that you are highlighting those tasks and skills in this particular discussion. The new ones that you have not read are indicated by these blue dots. That's just letting you know you haven't read those yet. Those are new. As the teacher, I also have the ability to give feedback to the students, helping them really develop those skills and feedback so that they can continue to post and use those reference materials, providing that feedback. And the feedback can be customized to show to everybody, so everybody can see the feedback given to that student, or only to that particular student only. As the moderator, you have control over the full discussion. The view that I'm showing you right now is a participant view. So this should be the same view that you're seeing. but the view from the teacher end, does actually give me a few more controls. If somebody does post something, it can be marked, and even the student can report it as well. Going back over to this colorful wheel here, this takes you to the topology, so you can see the info and stats about this discussion. So similar to that other diagram, this is just showing you what the discussion looks like. And so the colors of this wheel grow as more responses are added to each of the statements. Starting in the middle, there's that blue, my initial thesis statement. And now we have 4 con statements that have been posted and 3 pro statements. And if there were more responses to these claims, the color wheel would grow and grow even further. So you can just see the overall overview and stats of this particular discussion. And if you were wanting to get back to where the reference material was or the link to that article, you can get back to this background information by clicking that colorful wheel to get to that. And then you can see everybody who has currently participated in contributing to this particular discussion. So now that we kind of have that understanding of how Kialo works and how we could use an issue from ProCon.org and then integrate it into Kialo by creating a visual discussion or debate. Basically, when you are creating the discussion in Kialo, as you're going through the steps of, what the thesis statement is and creating the background information, you put your links right in there. I see Michelle posted that ProCon.org could be used to teach civics, content standards, and also help students learn how to evaluate evidence, absolutely, and strengthen arguments for writing assignments. So she would use it with relevant topics that her students walk away knowing how to evaluate information they're facing. Absolutely. Absolutely. You would have used the debate on employer mandated. Interesting, because that is current event, right? Relevant topics, it's happening. Using a tool like this, you have a wealth of issues from ProCon.org that you can use. And then, of course, you can use Kialo to kind of help teach students how to do that, because that may not be a skill that they come in knowing how to do. And so visually, they can see how to do that, learn how to do that. And then, of course, you have all of that supporting information from ProCon.org. There is a lot of vocabulary, which may be new vocabulary, and many of these are articles on ProCon.org. It's a great tool to reinforce literacy and critical thinking, absolutely, and understanding the differences. With these tech tools that we learn about, like Kialo, it brings a different element to some assignments or academic standards that we're currently teaching. So yes, we're teaching essay writing and we're trying to teach critical thinking skills and we're building Venn diagrams and things like that. But this is just another visual way to see that discussion, to really understand how a debate and the discussion works, right? And then to be able to facilitate that as a teacher, and then have your students to be able to go back and reference it and review it and participate in really identifying strong statements. So I just wanted to point out one more thing on the screen. So remember I told you that you can create tasks to help direct your students towards completing specific activities. So on your screen, you might see, similar to mine, the task. So in this one, I set a task that you need to write 1 claim in total and vote on 1 claim. So really trying to help your students identify what you want them to do in that particular discussion. And as you complete those tasks, you'll see that it is checked off. If I voted on 1, now you see that, okay, I completed that task voting on a claim, but I still need to go ahead and write my total claim. So again, just a little information on how Kialo works and really how you can direct your students towards participating in a discussion in a specific way if you're really trying to focus on a certain task or objective. So how do you vote? This bar right here on a statement, if you click the bar, it drops down and now you can rate it. You can rate it as totally false or true on a scale to 0 to 4. Clicking the 3 dot next to the statement and view the comments and history, you can then see on the graph tab all of the voting. So how many people gave a 0, a 1, 2, all of that. So right now only one person is given a 4. So that's how you vote. You're going to click that bar and then you're going to select a number from the little drop down and rate it. What is the appropriate level or what level of student would this tool apply to? And so we did mention, is it for ESL and HSE? Be used for all of those. One of the things you do need to think about is the level of your student. along with the reading level of the text. So when we browsed over some of the lesson plans, you saw that some were like from 5th to 12th grade or 6th to 9th grade, something like that. So you kind of have to take in consideration both. What is the level of your student? So if it's an ESL class, ESL student, maybe that is going to be a little bit difficult for a lower level ESL student, but maybe your higher students, you can use that tool with them. And then your HSE students, but again, considering the reading level of your particular group of students, and then finding lessons and issues that would apply to them. Do we need to review specific vocabulary before, or going over the articles before? Things like that. So what pre-work needs to be done in order for the student to fully dissect the text and be able to extract the information from it? One other thing is we do definitely have to consider the topic sensitivity and controversial issues. So ProCon is presenting information on issues just in general. So they said they're non-biased, nonpartisan. So there are just issues in general. So you have to think about your students and what would be appropriate for your classroom. ProCon does cover some issues that can be very sensitive and controversial. They may be current events or even of interest to your students, but ultimately we want to make sure that we're using the tool to facilitate productive discussions and debates. And so remembering to use these tools to teach the critical thinking and academic school skills, and just be aware of our populations and keep respectful boundaries in the classroom. So there are current events that are very hot topics, but they can also be very sensitive. So we have to be very mindful in choosing the different issues that we want to discuss in the classroom. This is a quote from Desmond Tutu, and I did take this quote from the Critical Thinking Quote Bank on ProCon.org, which I think is just a great quote. It really sums up the importance of us using tools like ProCon.org and Kialo to teach students how to effectively support and discuss and even debate issues. So, he says, my father used to say, don't raise your voice, improve your argument, which this is what we're trying to teach our students to do, right? We're teaching them those skills, that research, and supporting their positions.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.